When people test components, they usually do one of three things. They invent fake data, they keep calling the same API all over again, or they just basically run in sequence. Let's assume you're doing a pipeline of three different things and you're in the middle of running your second API call. What I mean by run in sequence is you call the first API again and the second API and then test your second component. Or you wait for the whole pipeline to be done and then you test everything. I think all these three are backwards. Fake data takes time to create and rarely looks like production data, and calling it again and again costs money and gives you different responses each time. And just waiting for the whole pipeline means if something breaks, you've got 5 different moving parts and no idea which one failed. So instead, I test one segment at a time using a response I have already captured. Let me show you how my pattern looks like. First I grab the most recent successful API response from my provider calls table. As you know, for GrowthMap, I'm storing all of the provider calls so that it's easy for me to replay and actually test as well, which is what we're doing now. And this is a real response that my application has already paid for. So this is a JSON response that I've effectively paid for data for SEO that I already have. This isn't a mock and there is no extra API bill for me to test, because now what I'm doing is extracting data from this and then storing it further, which I don't really want to spend another API call for. So before action function, my application starts to then use this data and then run the newly returned function to extract this data, and it prints the exact row, it prints the complete data that is actually stored to confirm whether my extraction was actually successful or not. I then create those ranked keywords, which is basically the exact function as you can see exported from my repository, which gets called to check, are we extracting these rank keywords exactly like we want, and are we creating the right rank keywords and storing them exactly the way we need. And I do a count star and I fetch everything and it gives me one row. And once I've done that, the most important bit I'm doing here is rolling back everything. And this is my favorite part because everything disappears. I've just proven that the data I've seen is right. I've seen that the count before and after are right. The database looks exactly before I started. So this is the actual pattern I wanted to share today. So test one responsibility at a time. Break your components in a way that you don't have to incur more cost or take on more risk towards the end, and when you test, leave no traces. So if your database looks exactly the same after your test as it did before and you have tested your features, I think that's a pretty good day.